afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our third annual virtual Great American Teach-In. I am here with Jonathan Singer. And Jonathan is a master's student in cybersecurity at USF and attended UCF as his undergrad in information technology. He has been working in the computer science field for over 10 years now and focuses on hacking and keeping businesses secure from the bad guys. His long life passion for computers started when he was in elementary school, and it has stuck with him to this day. And to all of the people listening, those of you who might have questions for Jonathan, if you would please text them to 813-330-0176. That would be amazing. And I am Jan Stern, who will be moderating and asking those questions on your behalf. So just text 813-330-0176, and I will share them with Jonathan. Include your name so we can give you a shout out as well. And there is that number in the right-hand corner for you. Jonathan, it's all yours.
Alrighty. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Jonathan Singer. I am currently working in the computer science and information technology field. This is something that I've really loved my entire life, so I truly feel that I have my dream job. Since a lot of you guys and gals are still in grade school, I wanted to talk about how I got to where I'm at today. I remember in elementary school, I loved computers so much. I found my passion when I was very young. All through middle school, even my teachers realized that I was able to help them out with different computer assignments. I truly fell in love with what my passion was, what my hobbies were. And in high school, I actually attended a vocational school where I was given opportunities to spend time in computer labs. I did all kinds of different exercises, working with different systems, different challenges, and even picked up a couple of certifications that to this day are recognized in my industry. Now, I may have a little bit over a decade on some of you, but I still have the same passion and the same drive that I got when I was much younger. So some of the things that I realized that have really led to my success today was absolutely identifying that passion. I've always been a little bit nerdy, and I like to build things. In fact, I even brought some of my different computer toys for different projects that I'm still working on. I mean, it could have been robotics and different things, and for me, I still have little circuit boards and all kinds of fun stuff, even as an adult and working in the industry. So, and I'd love to take some questions if you have any about my school experience and some of the things and classes that I had to help bring me to where I'm at today. But I'd like to share with you about what my job is and what my career of choice is in information technology. More specifically, I work in cybersecurity. And if anybody's ever heard that term before, it's a big thing that we're dealing with right now. A lot of times we're seeing different types of computer hackers in the news, where they may be breaking into credit card systems, or they may be into bank accounts, maybe even potentially different things with voting and all kinds of other aspects of our adult social life. And so the company that I'm with, it is called GuidePoint Security. I've been with them for a little over 3 years now. I started when they were a very young company, almost as a startup. And so I've been with them for, again, like I said, 3 years out of the 5 years they've been around. And my job is to work with big businesses, schools, different types of government and organizations, and work with them on their security, and work with them about how do we keep the bad guys out. Remember, the internet these days is international scale, and it's full of all kinds of people that want to have a good time and some that want to make it not so good. And when businesses, tend to worry and are afraid of being hacked and having certain things taken from the organization, they bring in people like me. So we'll come in and we'll work with them as a team, and we'll discuss, how do we prevent these bad guys from breaking in? How do we, give them a security, what we call posture, where they feel confident that their business is going to be safe online, that they can continue to operate, and they don't have to necessarily concern themselves too much about having something stolen or destroyed or broken in the process. Many times, a lot of the hackers tend to be people of all ages, including even in high school, which goes to show there's a lot of potentially interesting things out there. But at the end of the day, I like to say that I'm one of the good guys. That I come in and I kind of make this internet and this world a little bit of a safer place any way that I can. It's kind of stemmed from a long time after I got out of high school. Although I did computer science in high school, I continued on to go to college and do information technology and computer science. I chose to stay in state. I'm from Florida and I love it here. But I did go to UCF, and they had a wonderful computer science and engineering program. That was a decision that I made, although it's interesting to find that a lot of people in the computer science industry have all kinds of backgrounds. Some of them didn't necessarily go to college, but with that in mind, have found what they're very passionate about. It may have been a little bit of a tougher road to go down, but still, it was a great opportunity for me. I had wonderful classes where I was even given the opportunity to teach some of my upper level classes where we discussed things like computer networking, or what connects multiple computers together and how they talk over the internet. I also was involved in the Computer Security Club. I founded a student organization that after 4 years now continues to be the #1 computer security defense club and team in the entire country. The students that continue over at UCF and all of the new generations of students coming in train very hard. They take computer science and all the different things that we do almost like a sports team, where practice and learning and patience does pay off. Just so everybody kind of gets a little bit of perspective, in my field and in computer science as a whole, if you do very well and you do your homework and you take the time to learn about new things, you will have a wonderful opportunity presented to you as a young adult. Many friends to this day that now work at some of these big companies, including places like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and Amazon. They're all over the world, and they're using their talents that were recognized by different organizations throughout the years. So that's some of a little bit about my background and how I got to where I'm at today. I've had a couple different jobs working for different companies while I was still trying to figure out some different things along the way. Now, I did notice here that we have a question that's come in. The question is I have several certificates. Of those on the more networking side, CCNA and etc. That's a Cisco certification, by the way, and sysadmin, Red Hat certified, or in specific technologies. It's a wonderful question. What kind of certifications do I have, or which ones are good for different directions? So when I was in high school, I focused a lot on networking. So I did do a lot of the Cisco stuff. And even in college, I got my CCENT, which is the first half of the Cisco CCNA. Within a couple years, though, I found that I wanted to specialize in computer security rather than networking or any other particular direction. And because of that, I started seeking out security-related certificates. Not that it should stop anybody, but I've definitely found that specializing in a direction that you're passionate about and interested in will open up more opportunities in that direction. The Red Hat certification that was also mentioned, and just for those that are not familiar, Red Hat is what we call a type of Linux. It's actually another type of system that you can run on your computer. Some people have a Mac, may have Macs. Others may have PCs with stuff like Windows. There's other things out there, and Red Hat is one of them. In fact, it's used by a lot of businesses worldwide. And in fact, if system administration, as mentioned here in the question, or any other type of enterprise or big business platform, Red Hat would be a wonderful certificate to have. I have many friends with Red Hat certifications, as well as I have many friends with Cisco certifications for networking or internet and connected device directions and jobs. So I'll go ahead and talk about some of the certifications while we're on this topic that I personally have. So I have a kind of a bit of a wall over here with some of my certificates and college degree from UCF. But I have ones that focus very heavily on security. And so, for example, one of mine is called a GPEN, or GAC Certified Penetration Tester. What that means is I went through a very tiring and challenging training session. I use a lot of my experience that I've gained over the years, a lot of the learning that I've gained from reading different articles online, practicing and testing these different techniques. And so the GPEN certification that I have comes from a company called SANS, and it focuses directly on security. Like some of these mentioned here, the Cisco and the Red Hat, they're all industry recognized. And these are the kind of things that when you put them on your resume are going to stand out. The biggest thing is when a company receives resumes, they're going to look at a couple candidates. And if you show that you have a certification, especially at a young age, that really shows a passion for learning, and it shows a passion for the industry, and that says a lot about somebody, that they're willing to challenge themselves and learn difficult new things to be successful. So I continue to challenge myself, even as an adult, to continue to earn new certifications in my industry of security. I still do a little bit of networking from here and there, and I am very familiar with Red Hat Linux. My previous work was working with a lot of servers, and every day it was Red Hat. So I picked up a lot of those skills along the way too. But that's a wonderful question. And in fact, while I was in high school, my sophomore year, when I was 15 and 16 years old, I worked hard to study and train for a couple certifications. And if anybody's heard of these, but they're called the A+, the Net Plus, and I don't think this one exists anymore, but it's called iNet Plus. But the A+ and Network Plus, again, are industry recognized. They were something that I was given the opportunity to take, and I had to show that I had to study hard and take a practice exam and pass it with over 90%. And so I went on, and I still have those certifications to this day. Those are from CompTIA. And again, if you are just now starting to get curious and want to look forward to a really bright and what I consider one of the most amazing careers and futures, starting to work on and figure out the certifications will be very helpful. So we do have a follow-up question, and it's asking, do the certifications expire? Now, some of them do, and that's okay. I have some certifications that I do get to keep for life, while other ones may expire on a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year, or even 4-year basis. And what that means is that after several years, you're expected to show that you've kind of kept up with the material. You have to show that you've kept the competency. And by that, you may have to maybe retake a test or retake a course, or just show that you're still working in the industry and the material that is relevant to your certification, whether it's networking or Linux or security, that you're still applying yourself and that you're still upkeeping that. So yes, Some of them do expire, and it requires a little bit of maintenance. But when you show other people in your industry, especially in computer science, that you don't just in theory or on paper have these skills, but you have shown that you can apply them and that you can challenge yourself and prove that you are worthy and really put a lot of hard work into it, it goes a long way, and it absolutely shows and it shines. In fact, without even working in a computer science or IT field, if you have certifications and you just graduated from high school, you're pretty much guaranteed an opportunity. That could be your first job, even almost just showing that you have certifications or that you're interested in this stuff and you've kind of spent the extra time. It will put you in a very good position in the long run. So what other kind of questions do you have? I'd like to kind of make sure that I'm addressing the crowd if there is any. But if not, I can continue to discuss some of my other jobs and some other interesting things that I've been up to, I'd say, in about the past decade, which I'll go ahead and continue on in the meantime. So after I graduated and I was in college at UCF, I did take up a lot of work in the field. I wanted to take the opportunity to gain some experience, to actually finally get my hands on some systems, to show what all of my training and learning is finally going to be used for. And it's been exciting ever since. It's helped build a wonderful resume. I did see a question come in, and I'll go ahead and respond to this. It's, how accurate are shows like CSI Cyber? Well, compared to what myself and my team and what we do on a day-to-day basis, CSI Cyber is very Hollywood. A lot of it starts out with a good premise. There's a base idea that's generally presented in TV shows like CSI Cyber. If anybody else has seen Scorpion, Hollywood is taking their approach. And I would say today, cybersecurity, hacking, and just all around computers are cool. We're getting primetime TV shows that are are looking into things in my industry and what my team and peers do, and they want to see TV shows. They want to see what it's like to be, nerdy is cool. I stand by that all day. So yeah, it's they start out with a good solid idea that may be computer related, but they generally take it off of a deep end and make it very very much Hollywood, very exciting. In fact, it's not as crazy as what I get to do, but I still wouldn't change my career path for the world, regardless of how flashy it is on TV. So yeah, I can't say that any of my jobs or opportunities have had things where I'm running around with the FBI across the country trying to solve crazy cyber crimes. A lot of it is more technical.
But being nerdy is definitely cool, and Scorpion is a great show. And we have another question. Tyler wants to know, when did you get your first certification?
Okay. So I got my first certification at 15 years old, actually. In fact, that year, I racked up 3 certifications. I was kind of set on this warpath of I want to really do this for the rest of my life. I need to figure out what I need to start doing now. So my first certification that I got at 15 was my A+. And to this day, like I mentioned, that is a still an industry recognized certification. The school that I was with in high school, we had a lot of computer science related classes, and I was given the opportunity to challenge myself and to practice and study for this exam. And if I did well and I showed that I was ready, they actually covered the cost for me. So I had a great opportunity presented to me, and I worked really hard for it, and so that was the start of it. And like I said, within 1 year, I got 2 additional ones. By the time I graduated from high school, I had 3. Shortly after, I got my first Cisco cert, and now I can't even count how many. I have all different kinds of certifications these days, and I continue to work hard and gain additional ones. It becomes fun because there's so many different things to learn. I did see a.
And Jonathan, you bring up a good point that you had your certification paid for, the first one that you received. Certifications tend to not come cheaply. So if you are in school and can optimize on your education while it is cost effective, you never know what can get paid for.
You know, that's correct. A lot of times scholarships are made available, and at the end of the day, you know, nothing comes for free. If you really truly study hard, work hard on this stuff, and you feel it deep down inside where, I guess, you know, we talked about this, nerdy is cool. I love computers, and I'm very proud to say that. I am surrounded by all different types of computer devices around me at all seconds of the day, and I couldn't be happier. And so with that in mind, many certifications do cost a lot of money. When you are working in a career and in the field, I found that many employers, these companies that hire you, will pay for you to continue to get more certifications. They want you to learn. They want you to be successful. And so my company where I'm at now has essentially paid for all of my certifications that I've gained over the past 3 years. They look at it as a value-added resource. The more I know, the more I'm capable of, and the more I enjoy challenging myself, the more, you know, opportunity that they can find in the field and in the market, where they can say to a customer, you know, I'm not just bringing in anybody that we have just hired. This guy is an expert, and he's got the certifications, the experience, and the education to prove it. And it creates almost like a well-rounded you know, workforce. And so a lot of the people that I work with, we care a lot about these things because it shows a lot about our character. So before we even meet some of these customers, they know a little bit about us, and they are confident, and they know that we're a smart crew, and we work hard for the nice things. So we did receive a question. Looks like you want to know, how much do certifications run? Well, stuff, some of the smaller ones, stuff like A+, Net Plus, or Security Plus from CompTIA, can be as small as $150 or $250. And what that is for an exam voucher. That provides you the opportunity to go and take one of these tests, almost like the FCAT in a sense, where you know, you're given a very strict time. Can't talk to anybody. You have no internet or cell phones. And it's just you and the computer, and you have to answer the questions. To some other ones where they could cost $1,000 or several $1,000s. And once you start to get into some of these more expensive ones, it becomes, whether it's an investment in your future. So if you're potentially trying to find a job, and you may want to invest a little bit or find somebody to help sponsor you and invest in your future and provide you with opportunities, or if you get, you know, in with a good company, or you find a great opportunity that wants to invest in you. I know as a fact that even, for instance, where I work, I have a budget that allows me to take some very expensive certifications. But with that, they're investing in me, and they're investing it as a business as a whole. So to answer your question, some of it can be done for a couple hundred, and other ones are going to be in the several $1,000 price range, including upkeep, you know, those renewals, and making sure that you're staying relevant with the material.
And I have another question from Melissa. Did you have an internship in college, or did they help you find a position once you completed your program? Which I think was actually 2 questions.
That's a wonderful. Wonderful questions. So I can speak to both of them. So I did not have an internship in college. I was very fortunate to immediately start working part-time in a computer-related job. With that in mind, I had many friends that had internships. And in a college environment, although it may not be for all, many times the school will work closely with businesses in the area and provide all kinds of resources. For instance, they'll help you with your resume. They'll help you do mock and test interviews so you start to feel more comfortable and talk about some of the things that you're skilled in. And with an employer, they'll they'll have listings of different companies that have internship openings. And one of the fun things that I like about the computer science field is almost all of the time those internships are paid internships. So you're not just getting on-the-job experience, you're also getting paid to help cover some of those costs. So I worked my entire college career, and I'm still in college now. I mean, I'm going back for my master's. And that's something that I wanted to do. But I worked during my undergrad at UCF, and I juggled, but I wanted to keep my experience relevant, and I wanted to challenge myself and learn new things that you may not learn in the classroom. So, so when it comes to internships, they're going to be great, and working with the university or going out online on your own too, and just asking, are there companies around wherever it is that you may live that are, offering internship programs, maybe for the summer, maybe for the fall, or semester or two. There are even high school internships. I know of a couple in Tampa that provide high school internship programs, or maybe the summer after you graduate before you go off to college, if that's what you want to do. And so there's opportunities everywhere, and it's definitely something that you should consider. So I did receive a question here that is my current employer paying for my master's. I get this question often, and it's a little bit of a yes and no. So I have an education budget at work, but I tend to spend it more on my certifications. I'm actually investing in myself for my master's. So many companies do offer the opportunity to pay for continuing education and to pay for maybe a master's degree if it's something that you want to seek. In my case, my employer did not ask me to get a master's, so I can't hold that on them. But I also find that maybe we're too small or too young of a company to necessarily have that kind of benefit. That doesn't mean that there aren't companies that do. There are many businesses that will provide education reimbursement, especially for good grades. It's something that I'm currently in negotiations with potentially for next year, so it's good to keep it fresh. But I would say at the end of my master's experience, there are certain goals that I would like to achieve. I had a great time being a teacher's assistant when I was at UCF, and with a master's degree in a relevant field, which is cybersecurity for me, I can actually go and teach at USF. So I look forward to finishing next August and starting as an adjunct professor, teaching the next generation of what I consider going to be the best cybersecurity students in the country. So yes, I have a bit of a passion for that.
Very cool. And just a reminder to those who are listening and viewing, if you have any questions, please text those to 813-330-0176.
Wonderful. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that have kind of really not changed in the industry, at least for me. So I've brought a couple of example little systems here, but for instance, although I work in computer science, I don't get to play in a classroom as much anymore. I still have lots of little projects. So I have with me some little circuit boards that I'm constantly building, and if anybody thinks that this kind of stuff is cool, I mean, I think it's awesome if you ask me. But a lot of it stems from computer science as a whole. The industry across the board can really apply to anything. One of the biggest things that I appreciate about computers and about technology is the fact that it's not going anywhere. So whether or not you even work in the computer science field, or the company that you may start out with, or even start up yourself, has anything to do with computers, doesn't mean we still don't use them. So every business today, regardless of what the industry is, uses technology in some form. I mean, we all are chatting on our cell phones. We're utilizing in-home media devices and watching televisions that are now smart TVs that are computers themselves and run Linux, or even the laptops that I'm speaking to you on today. Every industry, whether it's clothing, whether it's food and produce, whether it's international trade and shipping, is full of technology. And so that means that every office and every business needs somebody who's in the computer science field. This ultimately creates an infinite opportunity of career choices, jobs, employment. I can't say that I ever feel like I'm never gonna not have an income or a job or some kind of opportunity anywhere that I go in the entire world. I think that's one of the coolest things that I like about what I do, is that should I decide I don't want to do security anymore, I still have a lot of different skills in computers and in technology that allow me to work in almost any environment. One of the first things that I started doing when I was in high school is I would ride my bicycle to a company that my father worked with, and they saw me one day and they said they had some computer issues, and I walked over to them at 16 years old and I said, let me help you with that. I know a thing or two, I've done this in school. And that's kind of how I started to realize that I can make some money doing this. It was good gas money when I was 16, and it really kind of kick-started me on a direction that everybody, I'm talking a warehouse, had nothing to do with computers, but they had computers in their office. So this isn't any kind of a restricted field. Every business in every city and every planet of this earth needs somebody who can work on a computer system, can understand how they communicate across the internet, how they can be used to do business, and how to keep them secure. At least in my interest, I like to keep them secure. But that should kind of put things in some people's minds, is technology and is computer science a direction, or is it a career field that I may be interested in? What does the opportunity look like? Do I feel that I'm going to be restricted to one location or one type of business or one type of job? And fortunately for me, and something that I like to share, is that it's not. It really is a vast and a wide utilized service and skill set. And so I know people, I have a lot of friends that work at businesses and work at different companies that aren't necessarily technology related, but at the same time have a need for knowledgeable and skilled computer science and information technology experts. So I see that we have a question that's just come in here, and it's, who inspired you to do the work that you do? So this one, to me, there's a couple different ways to look at it. I would say that my father is my biggest inspiration. He always taught me when I was younger to work hard, to figure it out on your own, to do the research that you need, and to be very independent. I remember when I was much younger, we got our first computer, and it wasn't very long before I was being told, you know more about this thing than I do. And to me, that was a big accomplishment. So I would say my father's my biggest inspiration, because he has taught me the value of hard work, independence, and never stop learning. And the other biggest thing I like to do is you can figure it out on your own. You can really do the right research and learn some things along the way. Outside of that, there are a lot of industry figures that I look up to, For instance, here's a small example, but when I was joining the company that I'm with right now, I did a little research on them, and I wanted to know who was in charge of this company and why should I be interested to work with them? Why should I, consider them somebody I should respect and want to be a part of? And I quickly found out that the founder of the company has spoken at some of the largest security conferences in the world. And these are conferences that I looked up to myself, that I aspired as goals. And I said, I want to speak at that, big conference one day in front of a crowd of 10,000 people. And when I found out that the founder of the company, GuidePoint, that I'm with, has already done that, has already spoken, has already accomplished some of the goals that I look forward to, I knew that I was in the right place. And that is an example of somebody I also look up to, is the people that provide me with the opportunity of learning every day, because they have done things that I look forward to doing one day in my career. So we got a question here. It's, what was your first computer? So way back in the day of 1993 was my first computer. Where I lived in South Florida in Boca Raton was the home of the first IBM PC. And PC stands for personal computer. If anybody's familiar with the company IBM, a very large international computer company. I mean, been around since 40s, maybe 30s. I mean, way back. They've been doing this stuff for a long time. And so my first computer, one of our neighbors worked at IBM and helped my parents find all the parts, because back in the day, you didn't just buy a computer pre-made for you. You had to take a circuit board here and a circuit board there and figure out how to connect them. And so it was also very large. I would say it was probably, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine, but it was about 2 feet tall, and it was very loud and wasn't very fast, at least at the time it was considered. In fact, I have some of these little mini computers here that are more powerful than my first computer. But it ran a full 33 megahertz. If anybody's familiar with what that means, we're in the thousands now. And it had 8 megabytes of RAM. To put things in scale, we have close to 2,000 times that amount of computer memory in a standard computer these days. So this is about 2,000 times less powerful than what we deal with today. I would say that these iPhones are 1,000 times more powerful than them too. It ran what's called MS-DOS, so we didn't even use a mouse. It was a black and white screen, and it just had letters and a keyboard. And I used to learn. I learned to program on that. My first language that I learned was called QBasic, and you could do very simple things with it. You can ask questions and do math. But that was very exciting. That kind of was like the thing that got it all started back at home. Was my first computer, and I'm pretty sure my parents still have it to this day. I think it still turns on too, which would be very surprising. And we've definitely come a long way in the past 20 years, for instance, to tiny computers. People with Apple Watches are extremely powerful these days. But that's a little bit about the first computer I had. And I feel like I absolutely fell in love with the technology, and just wouldn't stop playing on the computer and trying to figure out how it worked and take it apart, put it back together. I can think of multiple times where I made my parents sweat that a $3,000 machine was in pieces on the living room floor, and I was the only one who knew how to put it back together. So those are some of the wonderful experiences of how I first got interested in this stuff.
And computers have come way down in prices over the years. And my first computer was a TRS-80.
Wow, a TRS-80. That's before my time.
Tyler asked the question if you could tell him, what are megahertz?
Cool. So megahertz, it's a wonderful question. So megahertz is it's what we call a clock cycle. So the way a computer works is that an operation or some kind of mathematical calculation is presented to the brain of the computer, the CPU, the central processing unit. And when an operation is presented to it, it has to take that operation and perform that mathematical calculation. Now, a megahertz is how often an operation is performed. So when a computer operates at a particular megahertz, that means it performs that many operations per second. Now there's a little bit more complicated technology behind it, but essentially the concept is at what clock rate or what frequency, for instance, do these computers continue to essentially operate through multiple cycles, and do they continue to hop from step to step to step? So when we're measuring how fast a processor is these days, we're speaking about it in megahertz or even gigahertz. That's 1,000 times more than a megahertz. And so I have these little baby computers here. This operates at 16 megahertz. My first computer was 33 megahertz. This little circuit board over here cost me about $3. That computer cost $3,000. And so the times have changed and they have flown by. But it is going to be considered a measurement of cycles, of operations, of frequencies, of how many things can, how fast can we hop from next step to next step as we're going through and processing data. Hopefully that fully answers your question. So let me think of some other cool things. I actually did bring a couple of toys here to show. Another one of these examples of things that we're computerizing these days is things like this. So this is a drone here. And the brains of the operation, as shown right there in the middle, this has its own computer too. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating, the number of things that we work with on a daily basis that we may not consider to be computers. For instance, we're starting to understand that these cell phones are very powerful computers here. We have Apple Watches that some people have. But let's think about some of the other things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. For instance, a television is a very modern computer these days. If you have a set-top box, like in cable TV, so you have a DVR, that's a computer these days. Many devices that we see around us, even billboards, for instance, digital signs, advertising. When you go to Disney, for instance, there are computers located all over the park that are, looking at how much people are walking in certain areas. Traffic lights are computerized. I mean, it literally it's almost everything that we deal with in this world, whether it looks like a computer to us or not, is most likely being computerized in some way or some form. And most of the technology is going to be similar, where you can apply a certain set of knowledge across the board, but other times you may have to specialize in some of these different systems that we're dealing with. It really is, it's amazing. I mean, I have a television remote, and my remote has a computer in it that it runs its own microprocessor that I can program this device. It has its own memory. I mean, it's really just, it's absolutely cool. One of the other things that we're moving towards in the commercial space and in business is the new microchips that are in our credit cards. Even those have a tiny little computer in them. So in that contact pad on a credit card is a microchip and is a computer, and it's absolutely amazing. And so we can make computers so small that they can fit in something as thin as a credit card and into our wallet, or they're massive devices and machines that we're using to calculate hurricanes and all kinds of things, and those take up entire warehouses. So the scale of it can be very drastic. The use of it can be very drastic. And we're living in an age of mini computers everywhere. We call them Internet of Things. Nowadays, we have doorbells that are run computers and are connected to the internet, where when you ring the doorbell, a camera activates and your phone pops up and it shows you who's at your door. We have light bulbs, smart light bulbs, that we're starting to see more and more. Every single light bulb itself is now connected online somewhere, and you can control those from your phone or from other devices. You can even talk to what we call an Alexa from Amazon, which is a small device that is connected to the internet, and it's a very smart computer. And you say, please turn on the lights in the living room. And you can program it to identify and connect to different systems. So we're starting to see every aspect of our lives, not just in the workplace, but in our personal lives, computerized. Sometimes I wear a Fitbit when I'm out running around Tampa, and that little mini computer that sits on my wrist is tracking how much I'm stepping. It's giving the data back to my phone, and I'm being able to get direct feedback and direct results of all of the actions that I'm doing in the world around me. And every one of these technologies and every one of these companies needs an expert just like us. So we have some more questions coming in. So I'd love to hear them.
Pam would like to know, you talked about how you built a computer and took your family computer apart and whatnot, but have you actually built a computer from scratch?
It's a wonderful question. And yes, so there are a lot of resources online, and essentially you can part together an entire computer. In fact, I have one over across the room. A little heavy, so I'm not going to drag it over here. But you can identify all of the major components of a computer system, and you can source and locate and purchase every individual piece and assemble the entire system, and hopefully turn it on the first time and it works. So when you're doing something like that, you have to consider about each component. So for instance, you're going to need something like a motherboard, which is the main circuit connector of the entire computer. Stuff like a video card, which is how do you output to a display or a monitor or a TV. Something like a sound card. And when I say card, I mean essentially a circuit board, a piece of technology, something that gives you audio that you can hear the noises from your computer. Hard drive. What is that? Well, that's where you store all of your files and all of your data and all the things that you work with. And then it goes on and on from there of different features, maybe like wireless or internet. So yes, I have built, and I wouldn't say from scratch, where I've essentially, found every little tiny microchip and soldered it and put it all together. A lot of it is pre-made, but from when you come to assembly, you can pick the individual pieces that you use and kind of put it all together as long as you meet the requirements of what a minimum computer needs. So hopefully that should answer your question.
Hopefully. And my next question that I have for you is from Danny again. Given your background in InfoSec, what do you think about the rise of LOT devices both in the commercial space and the maker world, and their security or lack thereof in most bases, especially with the rise of things like Near botnet?
All right, that's a wonderful, wonderful question, and I did briefly touch on it, so I'd love to expand. And so the question was about IoT devices, and that means Internet of Things. So IoT is the idea and the concept of tying everything most likely online in some way, or making it communicate. And you mentioned something about security, and because I love security, yes, so the rise of IoT, the advent of all these new devices, like I mentioned a couple, for example, we talked about doorbells, light bulbs, Fitbits. Everything is online these days, and home alarms, thermostats. I mean, you can put a microchip in everything, and we absolutely are. My thermostat is fully embedded system in it. I can program it and all kinds of things. And the concern that we're seeing as far as security goes is that a lot of these devices are being developed and intended for ease of use, connectivity, and functionality. Well, sadly, in that kind of market, in that kind of decision-making, security tends to come last. We see a lot of hacks or compromises that target these type of systems because of the fact that they serve a function or a purpose, and security was generally left behind. Don't get me wrong, I love how easy a smartwatch or a light bulb or a thermostat is. It simplifies my life, and that's what it's meant to do. But when it comes to security, a lot of times is they leave things simple. So they'll have easy to guess passwords. They'll have default passwords that you can just simply look up online and research in the manual what the original default password is. Or other times they don't have any security at all. And these companies tend to find out the hard way after the fact when something bad happens. There was recently a very large attack on the internet, and it was done almost 100% by IoT devices. In fact, you asked about it. And so in this case, 300,000 camera systems, and by this I mean DVR camera systems, so surveillance, home security, business security systems, the recorder box itself that all the cameras connected back to, ran a version of Linux, one of these operating systems or computer environments on this device. And because they were connected to the internet as an Internet of Things device, as one of these IoTs, and there was a bug in it, a flaw that was discovered, and 300,000 of them were hijacked, taken over by some bad guys, and used to attack other parts of the internet. So they took all of them and they teamed up and they performed a particular attack that took down a lot of business across the country. Even I was affected that day. It was a Friday a couple weeks ago. I remember it very well. And so we're starting to see a lot of that. And but in light of a lot of these hacks, we're starting to see the companies that develop the IoT devices start to take security more seriously, and they're reaching out to businesses like mine and other security companies, and they're asking us for our help, and they're asking us, hey, we're solving a need for a function, and we're making lives easier for somebody, but are we doing it securely? And this even applies to vehicles. Recently, a lot of car hacking is huge these days because cars are connected to the internet in some way or some form. If anybody's ever heard of a Tesla, there's a very large computer sitting in the dashboard of that entire thing. And so when it comes to IoT and security, I would say it's probably it's getting crazier every day. And it creates an interesting challenge for me and my colleagues and teammates and my peers. I consider it a lot of fun because it's new, it's innovative, it's different. But we will continue to, I would say this is going to be a trend for a little bit until some of these companies really take security seriously. So hopefully that answers your question. Do I see any more coming up? Do we have any more questions, Jen, or should I kind of continue on and come to a little conclusion here?
Continue on. You have about 8 minutes left.
Wonderful. So I would like to talk a little bit about security and about responsibility when it comes to this stuff. And so when I was in high school and in middle school, I started to learn about computer security. And it didn't take me very long to realize the power that computer security can have on the internet and other places in general, and how dangerous that stuff can be. So one of the biggest things that I like to stress and I like to talk about is the ethics and responsibility of necessarily having the skills to do bad, but remembering to always do good with it. The companies that I work with, I would not have the job I have today if I were to be arrested for hacking or to be committing any kind of crimes on the internet. I would essentially never work in computers again. I'd probably be in jail, and especially in today's age, where we mentioned that technology is in every aspect of our lives. Computer security is vital and essential, and we need more of the good guys on our side. So a lot of bad guys out there, and they're getting caught, they're getting put in jail, and it's a very real thing. It's a reality that we have to deal with, is that you should always make sure to use your skills for good. One of those things is I have met some people that use their skills for bad, and they pay the punishment. When I was over at UCF and we started to put together the cybersecurity club, one of the biggest things, as we just talked about, is that some of the skills that we're going to practice and maintain and discuss can be used for dangerous things. But our goal here is to remind students that they have opportunities and futures if they stay the good guys, if they do really well with this stuff. And so we continue on to talk about ethics and to talk about responsibility. And so just because I can doesn't mean I should. And so I learned about that when I was in high school, because I was looking at some certain things and I thought about the consequences of my actions. So when it comes to this, and especially in computer security or anything computer related, you'll realize that you will have certain skills and certain abilities to access data that maybe you shouldn't, and to look into different systems, or maybe even take over a system. And one of the best things that I love about my job and my career is I get to do those potentially bad things under contract. I'm hired to come into a business and play the bad guy sometimes. You know, I want to share with them and show them, you know, where are some of the security flaws that are in your company? Where are some of the ways that you may get broken into? How can we start to identify those things before somebody else does? And that's one of the big important things of being the good guy, is you still get to have, I guess we'll call it a little fun every once in a while. But I cannot stress it enough. Using any of these skills for bad will not just, you know, put a bad mark on you, but it is potential jail time. These things aren't taken lightly, especially when we live in an age of cybersecurity and cybercrime and international espionage, where countries are hacking other countries and things like that. You know, if you want to play the bad guy but do it for the good team, you know, come and look at industries like mine where I get the opportunity to do that, or consider things in government. You know, the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, they're all actively hiring experts, cybersecurity and computer security experts in their field, people that show the passion, have good, and one of the big things is you need to have good grades, no trouble, not getting in trouble, and show a competency, show that you're interested in stuff. And a lot of those things, when you're paired up together, will, you know, you can essentially land anywhere, work anywhere. I did consider at a time in my life to go and work for the federal government. I am currently in what we call private sector, so in the businesses, and I'm happy here. I've had some wonderful opportunities, but I imagine I have a lot of friends that go and work, for instance, we shouldn't say this, but the NSA, and they do, you know, computer science and computer security related stuff and love it, and they get those opportunities, and it's because of making the right decisions and the right choices all through high school and through college, that they are given the entire world of different things that they can do as a career. And I still like to say that I never really do work every day. I play. I mean, I have toys. I have a drone. I have, you know, all different kinds of really cool stuff. And it's still take it apart, have fun, and never stop learning. Hey, Jen, you're on mute.
You know, I did take it off mute before I started talking, but technology happens. That is my tagline. But thank you so much for the last hour of talking to us about what you do every day and your passion, as well as giving some lifelong learning tips in there and to keep people safe on the internet. Everybody, this is Jonathan Singer, and this completes our second speaker. We look forward to tomorrow. See you in the morning. Bye.